Hello, 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 and welcome to Shared Space with Quita and Chad. We have our lovely guest on today, Miss Amber Jones. How you doing today, Amber?
Hey y'all. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here today.
Of
Walk
course,
with the
of
Doc fam.
course. Yes, yes. Extended walk with the doc fam, right? Like you are always out there with us. So hi everybody. I am Laquita Chansey. I'm the founder and director of Baltimore Homes, and we build micro shelters and tiny homes for folks who are unhoused right here in Baltimore City. We also design, we talk about digital equity, women empowerment, all that great stuff. And my awesome co-host, Chapo, how are you? Go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
How are you? I am Chat, Chaplain David Lovelace. I'm from Baltimore. I co-host Shared Space on BlackUSA.news. Um, yeah, it's a Monday.
It is, and this has been the Mondayest Monday who Mondayed ever. Okay, like all the things that could go wrong went wrong. All the things that could possibly flip up did its daggone flip. So
Well,
peace
you want to
and
you want to
blessings
talk
to
about
all
it? Get it off your chest. What's going on?
I mean, it was a long weekend. It was a good weekend, but it was a long weekend. And then like Monday just started off not awesome. I'm working with Dent, and we were supposed to have our meeting this morning at 9 o'clock, but there was some miscommunication. So me and my site manager were like expecting it to be at our site. The other site was expecting it to be at their site. Either way, we got to reschedule it because we didn't sync up and we only had 30 minutes to make it happen anyway. So that happened. What about your Monday, chat?
So I'm down all my vehicles. I just got back from getting one towed, but here's my what grinded my gears today. So I pay a little extra to have nationwide insurance. They have roadside assistance. Roadside covers the member, right? So I'm driving, and I've had plenty of people's cars towed that didn't belong to me that I've been driving, helping people out or whatever, or I'm driving. My brothers let me drive their hoopties and they break down and I fix them for them, right? So I called to get a tow, and they're like interrogating me like they never did before. How tall is your car? How long is it? This and that. And asking all these weird questions. I'm like, you have never in 10 years asked me any of these questions, right? What's going on? So after being on the phone for an hour trying to get a tow, the guy was like, oh, your roadside won't cover the tow. And I'm like, what do you mean? Oh, it only covers the vehicles on the policy. And I've never heard that before. And I Googled it, and that is untrue. They cover the members. So if I'm in your car and your car breaks down, we're getting towed, right? That's the service you pay for. But the guy on the other end of the phone denied me that service. So I'm stuck in South Baltimore. Just wasted an hour on the phone with this guy. And so my brother called his all AAA to get picked up and get a tow truck. But it being a Monday, I don't know what it was, man. I waited 4 hours, just got home in time for the show. Didn't get to shave or clean up or anything. But yeah, it's been a rough Monday. The whole neighborhood, one of the jackasses up the street robbed everybody's cars. This morning, my wife was pissed about that, and half the neighborhood wants to go kill him. So good luck to you, buddy. And yeah, it's just been a crazy weekend. I think we tried to have too much fun and enjoy ourselves too much on Saturday, and the enemy's like, you're not going to have fun. You're not, but we are. We did.
Yeah,
We had a blast. We got to go see. Had the
Tony
privilege to go see
Baker.
Tony Baker and his tribe. His two brothers opened up for him. His comedy brothers. Saturday night at Baltimore Comedy Factory. They were hilarious. All three comedians hit. What was their name? There was Remy Mills, DC. I'm sorry, DC. I don't remember your name. And Tony Baker. And even the MC was a boss, man. He was killing it. He was trying to get his little Baltimore isms in and figure it out. It was a lot of fun. One thing I will tell you guys, if you go to Baltimore Comedy Factory, is that you want to get there if you're with a group of people an hour early to lock in seats because the place was sold out, and we were just peppered throughout the whole place. But we still had fun. But yeah, Tony Baker is a
True
truth.
story, true story. Tony Baker was dope. The other comedians also dope. They were trying to do their Baltimore twos and do's like everybody else does.
That's right.
Um, but yeah, it was great. And we were peppered throughout, and it was still funny as all heck. So that's cool. So let's get into our guest, Miss Amber Jones. Come online. Like, tell us about yourself. Go ahead and give us the short intro of yourself, if possible.
Hey, y'all. So sorry if you hear any car AC going. It is hot today, but my name is Amber Jones from Baltimore City, born and raised. Current resident of East Baltimore in the Care/Jefferson Court neighborhood. Um, I guess short intro. I enjoy study, try to have impact in all things related to revitalizing our city. And just over time, I've just grown a passion for making sure that our neighborhoods, our communities are transformed in a way that is equitable, that includes us. And at this point in my career, it's all about how do we share that information so that people know how to empower themselves to take back control of their own neighborhoods. Because at this point, I think we realize we're all we got, so we got to get it done.
Yes.
And
So true.
how do we do that? Like, wow, like that's such a profound statement. Like, I don't want you to move on too far yet from that thought. Like, you said we realize that we need to take back our neighborhoods. Take it back from who and by what means?
I think there are a lot of people that are privately invested in seeing Baltimore remain the way that it is because they benefit. So while our communities suffer, they still find ways to create wealth for themselves, for their families. And there's this narrative that it's folks that are just so far removed from the planet that we can't find where they are, or, it's all properties that's wrapped up in the state. But there are very much living people in other counties surrounding Baltimore City who work in Baltimore City or have other business connections to Baltimore City that are invested in seeing it remain the way that it is because they profit. They profit from our suffering and all of the externalities that come with that, all the addictions, all the vices that come with our suffering. So it's important that our communities are empowered with information and financial resources to be able to take back control. Whether it's having to approach the private owners, having to approach the city, but whoever is in possession of these properties that are causing harm to our communities, it's up to us, those of us who care about the city, who have the information, who have the resources, to make sure that we're able to transform the city and remain here if we so desire. Because we've seen other cities experience a lot of displacement, and we don't want to see that same thing happen in Baltimore because those of us who suffered as long as we have deserve to reap the rewards of the turnaround.
Absolutely. And the crazy thing about me meeting Amber is that we continuously were in the same rooms that were having the conversations
Mm.
about making those changes. And finally it clicked. It's like, oh, you're no longer just a familiar face. Like, you're a familiar face. I know your name. We've been in the planning academy together. Like, that's a dope resource that walked us through basically, by the time the common folk finds out the capital budget, it's too late for us to do anything about it. So
Oh,
how do we change that process so that we can actually have influence and input on the way that our city is being invested in, and we don't have vacant buildings like the Target building that was sold to outsiders, and it's sat vacant. Now I do believe it's being purchased and being turned into a vocational school of sorts, but still it's sat vacant for years and years and years, even though that Target was a generating revenue source for Target. They decided they didn't want to be in that part of Baltimore and just closed the damn store. So it's sat vacant for years. So preventing things like that from happening, or making sure that the succession plan is immediately afterward, that there are no vacancy and blight, unnecessarily because of poor planning, even though we knew the stuff was coming. So,
Mhm.
Chap, to your point, some of those places that people should consider going to share those resources would be Baltimore City Resources, the Planning Academy. I think they do two a year. Shout out to Stephanie Smith. And I want to
Yes.
say,
My delegate.
Alina, yes, right. Like, folks are out here doing what needs to be done. So, Amber, what else would you say is a great resource or way for folks to get involved? Because I know you just did a pitch contest that was associated with some coinage. Tell
Oh
us a little
yeah,
bit about that.
that's
Yeah,
right.
so I graduated from University of Baltimore's Real Estate and Economic Development program. And so anyone that's graduated from University of Baltimore, doesn't have to be the development program or you're a current student at University of Baltimore. You have the ability to participate in this program that's a fellowship, specifically geared towards folks that want to be a part of the revitalization of Baltimore City and that want to work directly with communities to facilitate that revitalization. So the process started in February of this year. It culminated in our competition, which was in June. And I teamed up with two other Baltimore natives. It just so happened that both of us were Baltimore, or all three of us rather, are Baltimore natives. All three of us were East Baltimore residents, and we had family connections to East Baltimore. So it was just the perfect synergy for us to come together and form our group called Three Walls Development. So we came up with a proposal that was something that we could not only apply in our target neighborhood, but in other neighborhoods across the city. So one of the main challenges I think that faces a lot of communities that are under-resourced, underfunded, is if you're working in a vacuum, right? But you're surrounded by other neighborhoods that have very similar conditions to yours. The best way to be able to access resources is to build a strong coalition and to legalize that coalition, form a nonprofit entity, form some form of like CDC, figure out how you can form a land trust. And there are various resources, various organizations in Baltimore City that provide technical assistance to community-based groups that want to formalize themselves legally. Making sure that you have the right team of players in place. There are a lot of people that come from Baltimore City that live in Baltimore City who work for like the Department of Planning or DHCD, whether it's Baltimore or Maryland, folks who have experience in real estate, folks who have experience in finance, in law, like finding that strong core of people, a lot of whom are actually in your neighborhood that you might not realize are there. And then those people that are like really passionate, those aunties that everyone goes to when they need something, like when they're in need, make sure you have those aunties on your team as well, because they're going to tell you, what those needs are. They're going to get the people to come and be on board and be in support. So if you can pull together a strong coalition, there are resources out here that you can compete for that are available through the state. I would say that the state is the primary funder of development within Baltimore City as far as filling that gap. So we know that the cost to actually rebuild our city doesn't match how we're currently valued in terms of appraisal. So there's a gap that has to be met. And a lot of that gap funding is coming from the state. But to compete for that funding, they're always looking for things like capacity. They want to see how strongly, you're established. They want to see how many people are supporting you. They want to see if you have private dollars coming to support you. And so that private dollars, that's where you start with our community development finance institutions, which we have several based in Baltimore. We have, for example, Baltimore Community Lending, which a lot of people go to when they're trying to develop affordable housing or affordable home ownership, not just like apartment buildings, but also home ownership. They'll go to Baltimore Community Lending. Enterprise Community Partners, which is connected to a whole host of other organizations that provide development technical assistance as well as funding through their own CDFI. So, like, these are resources that are locally based that are interested in funding Baltimore City development projects. So you don't have to go to the major banks that are going to be looking at every little, detail that the traditional lenders look for to say that you check all the boxes. There are funders who are more mission oriented and who are more interested in seeing community development move forward. So starting there and then going to the private lenders once you have those other commitments from the state, from the community development institution. So I can go on and on and on, but
no, but that's super helpful, Amber. That's super helpful because some people have the passion, they have the desire, they have the friends that can do it, but they don't have the funding. I think one of the biggest barriers to getting started is understanding how to fund the deal and where to get the funds from. I really do believe that, I mean, if we were to tap into our 6 degrees of separation, we could figure everything else out. But if all of us are broke or have a 600 credit score, we're going to be stuck right the heck where we are unless we're out here robbing and stealing from folks, right? Like, let's be real. That's not how the world works. So, knowing where to get these resources is like fundamental to continue moving because, again, we know about the planning department. We now know about the state DHCD has a city DHCD. So those are 2 resources. But knowing that the state funds a lot of what's going on in Baltimore is super helpful. And then the idea of go ahead and finalize your company, like create an organization, become official so that now you can apply for those funds and you can get the technical assistance that Amber's talking about. And go into the classes, because in the classes, that's a place to network and meet the people that you don't have on your team. Because again, like Amber said, they're looking at capacity building. If you're one person doing everything, you are not going to be able to build a whole apartment building. You need to be able to prove that you have a team supporting you that's going to help you pull that big old
And
project together. Go ahead, Chapo.
to your point, even if you can, they don't want to hear that.
Yeah, it doesn't matter
They
that
don't.
you can. It
You gotta
doesn't matter
play
that
the
you
game.
can. They want you to have a team because what if you get sick? Nobody cares that you sick. This project needs to go on. What if you get hit by a bus? They don't care that you got hit by a bus. This project needs to go on. If you catch COVID, you still need to figure out how you're getting to these meetings and picking up materials and signing papers and paying folks. Okay? All of these things need to happen each and every time on time, or else it's going to be hard for you to continue getting funding the way that you need to be funded. So to Chap's point, even if you can do it, you need a team to pretend that they are doing it right along with you.
But I also wanted to comment, Amber, something you said significant a little while back was when you're talking about educating the community, and now with you just sharing information, like that's probably the most empowering thing we can do is share knowledge, right? Like, we say knowledge not shared is knowledge lost. And like Quita was talking about, sitting in on like the budget meetings for the city and the state and stuff like that. They don't want you there because they don't want you to have the information until it's too late. So like they'll do things like what they did during COVID, and I haven't tried to check in lately because I was so discouraged. But when they were having their budget meetings for the city, they would say, "Oh, you can tune in virtually at this time," and you link to the meeting, and they're showing a meeting from 2 weeks ago, right? It's supposed to be the live meeting, but there you only have access to the meeting 2 weeks ago, and then by the time they've made all the decisions, then it's too late to see what they're doing, right? And people don't know, but certain meetings you need permission to even be there, and the permissions are like is like in the minimum. If you get everybody to do their job right away, it takes 48 hours of process permission to be in a meeting. So if there's a meeting Wednesday, like none of us can actually be there because we would have to do the process and know somebody to push our application to be seen or heard at the meeting. It's so cumbersome and it's so meticulous and so intentional to keep us away from those decisions. So I
Yeah.
appreciate
So
you sharing
true.
that knowledge.
So true. And to your point, like something that a lot of people take for granted because we are like a very metropolitan area, because we're not super south, or more like center, central eastern. So people don't appreciate the fact that Maryland is southern. And so thinking of just how relationship oriented, a lot of southern states, a lot of southern cities and jurisdictions are, Baltimore City runs on relationships. So don't come here thinking that you're getting New York, Philadelphia, like you're going to be sorely mistaken, and you're going to be hit with a huge reality check when you try to do
Well,
things the way that a lot of other big cities
and
might do
let me
things.
comment on that because I like that we do business through relationships because I know I couldn't do anything in the city if it wasn't for my relational equity in different communities and with different community leaders and chiefs like you and Quita. I'm all about the relationships. The problem is, from my perspective, with our government agencies, is that we've relinquished um, these director positions and leadership positions to people not from Baltimore. So you hire a director from Atlanta, Georgia, to be director of Parks and Recs, and now he's brought in a bunch of Atlanta people to run the administration, and you've displaced all the well qualified, vetted people of tenure who should be running the agency, and you've just displaced them because of his relationships. So it's not so much my beef with out of towners coming in, but like they're not going to be able to leverage relationships in the city because they're not from here. So you're not good for you're not good for the city. If you're sitting in office and you're not from Baltimore, you're not good for my city because you don't have relationships. You don't know who to trust in the city. You don't know who you grew up with, who's been doing what, and you can't bring them up alongside you to help lead my city and my people to a better quality of life. We
And the
need people who
community
are
will
from here.
check.
Yeah.
Yeah. The community will check your credentials. Where did you go to high school? What neighborhood did you grow up
But
in?
even when we do,
Who are
like,
your who's your mama? Who's your
right, right.
grandmama?
And even when we do, what I'm saying is, even when we do, and we find out stuff that's wrong, what can we do about it, right? We got a guy who's in charge of an athletic budget for Parks and Recs, who has publicly admitted to defrauding the state of Georgia. What is it? The food stamp fraud, $20 million food stamp fraud. So what we do, we hired him to run the athletic department in Parks and Recs, knowing that he's a convicted felon, paying six-figure restitution. And people change and people need another chance, but why is that your first go-to for that position when there's somebody who's probably been working in Parks and Recs for 30, 40 years, who understands the culture and all the communities? Because if you worked in the agency that long, you've been bounced around, who has the relationships, who can do good for Baltimore. Why are you even sitting in that seat, for example? Or you got, like you were talking earlier about some of the other stuff in the city. Something that I wanted to bring up that kind of bothered me. We had a violent incident this weekend with the squeegee workers, whatever we're calling them right now. You were speaking of another delegate that was helping you, but we have a senator who actually came down, got in a physical altercation, was assaulted by the squeegee boys earlier that day, called the police. He got bopped upside the head with a water bottle. And forgive me for putting this out there, but I just feel like very strongly I haven't been able to let this go. He got in a physical altercation. The police caught the person. They asked him to come down and ID it, but because he was too busy politicking, doing a community food giveaway, he did not come identify the person. That same person enacted lethal violence later that afternoon or that evening. And so, like, what are we doing in Baltimore? What is our leadership doing? Like, you expect me, if somebody carjacked me, you'd expect me to come down to the station and waste 2 hours and sacrifice my time to identify a person who's harming Baltimore so that they don't continue to do it, or at least document it. So you, as a state leader, you don't have time to do that. Why is anybody else going to do that? You're the leader. We're following the lead.
I mean, in so many ways, we say, do as we say, not as we do. So I'm just gonna sit up. I mean, I have to be honest. I have not been assaulted by a squeegee worker ever. Like, the worst I've had was a dumb little heart put on my
Yep, the hearts.
put
Yep,
on my window.
that's what Brandy said too. Yep, love you, blow kisses, do the heart. I'm
Yeah,
not
but
getting
I
hearts. I'm just saying, I'm not
also
getting hearts.
right. I mean, but I also don't, act like I don't see them. I say hello. I say hi. I treat people
Yeah,
like people. So
like people.
people tend to give me respect even when we don't know one another. So I just don't understand this
Yeah, and I'm not trying to
hatred
get
for
into
the
a
squeegee
conversation about that.
workers. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like I wouldn't have, I don't know. It breaks my heart.
yeah, but what bothered me was the leadership side of it. Like the guys out there hustling. Like, yes, we treat like you are people, you are humans, right? We're not gonna dehumanize you and just put you in a box of, oh, you're a squeegee boy. Like, no, like Pee Wee, Dope Boy, Fats, like um Frank, like some of the guys that I know personally, like
Right.
you're people, right? Like treat them like people in the least. But on the leadership tip, it's like even when we discover things that are fraudulent or like this guy Theoru running for all these offices. He wants to be state's attorney. He wants to be the governor. He wants to be the mayor. Wants to be all these things. Like, who are you, bro? Like, we know your story. You're a perv, bro. Like, but you know what? He's gonna keep pushing until he gets it. And we know about him. Like, come on, man. Like, I don't get it. I don't get why we allow these things to happen. And then when the people are in office, they forget that they work for us, right? You're not the leader. You're a representative of Amber Jones. She's the leader. Laquita Chansey is the leader. I'm the leader. Like, we're the leaders out here. You just representing us. So forget about whatever you thought you wanted to do because you work for us. You took the position to represent us. Where are you at?
So that makes me wonder, Chap, would you ever run for an office?
Absolutely not.
Okay, all right. Amber, what about you? Should
Because
we
none of us are willing to compromise our integrity. I already know.
I've had people like legitimately joke or like seriously say you should run for office, and I'm like, not when people that are for community are getting death threats or having threats, like moved
executed?
forward on,
Yes.
not because they're doing something wrong or wreaking havoc on the community, because they're actually trying to get the work done and be positive, and just because there's more attention on you through an election, now there's a target on your back. Like, I'd much rather do the work and you'll know my name when it's done
Yeah, yeah, no, I dig it.
than have to deal with that pressure, Like, I don't know.
And
Yeah,
Quita,
it's
I see really good people like take position, and a lot of them have to compromise, right? Like, I'm just from a little bit I know about you from doing Walk with the Doc, Amber, and if you're part of Quita's tribe, I know enough, I know everything I need to know. Number one, but you're not willing to compromise your integrity to take that seat because they're not going to let you have that seat unless they know you're willing to compromise or they know they got something on you that they can hang over your head. It's I already know 44 years in Baltimore. I've tried to avoid politics, but even avoiding politics, we all see that, right? So it's tough. It's a tough question. Quita, why don't you run? We'll all back you up.
Same reason. Same reason. Like, I will be out here fighting folks. They gonna put me in jail. Like,
Well,
you
look,
can't.
Pulley ran for it. We might as well back her up. She's going for it.
Right. Yolanda Pulley did run for mayor. I can't. I'm not about to be that just puts a target on your back.
And
And
and you know what
haters
else is
gonna
that?
hate. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say that was part of her. For me, part of her charm was that she was not about compromise, and maybe that's why obviously she's not mayor. That's part of it too.
So
It's
about that, right? Okay, so Amber, you were saying, you were telling us about tech support, you were telling us about funding. What are some of the other things? Like, I know you're a part of, I live in East Baltimore. I know you're a part of, are you a part of Build or Rebuild? Rebuild?
A rebuild,
so
yeah.
I also, yeah, so I currently work for Rebuild, and um it's an interesting time to be a part of the organization because they're like completely revamping.
Mhm.
They used to be a part of like a much larger entity, and
Mhm.
now they're very much, you know, a much smaller organization,
Right.
and so there's a lot of change happening, a lot of good change in terms of how they approach their development process. And so one of the things that's key to that is figuring out how to um, further distill the process so that they're not having to keep everything in house. So they've been working with the city on figuring out how they can stabilize more properties that are vacant, that are currently dilapidated, that are declining every day, to make sure that a larger group of potential developers are able to come in and finish these properties. Because the reality is that there is a shortage of, you know, construction skills and trades folks that are able to do the very dangerous and meticulous work that it takes to rehab a lot of these vacants. And so because of that, if you are able to find someone that's qualified, they're charging a premium for it, right? So if we can scale up that work to tackle as many properties as possible, and get them structurally sound, get a roof over them so that you don't have rain, you know, pouring into the building, then a broader group of developers, you can find, you know, the contractors that can do the finishes, that can do the plumbing, the HVAC, electrical. And so that's where we're pivoting, and we're hoping that we'll get additional support in terms of financial resources as well as technical assistance and more streamlined processes through the city to be able to scale that work up. So it's an exciting time to be doing development in Baltimore City because the city is exploring that intentionally as well.
Right. Right. There are a ton of different cohorts that I've heard of throughout the city. I know Bree Jones from Parody Homes, they're doing a cohort. Shelly, what is Shelly's last
Shelley
name?
Halstead from Black Women Build.
From Black Women Build, they have regular cohorts. So, I mean, Baltimore really needs to focus on a way to, one, maintain population and then increase population. Because to your point, Amber, there are tons of homes with trees growing through them, but there's also an absence of over 500,000 families to fulfill some of those homes because once upon a time we were a city of a population of over a million, and now we're just like barely over 600,000 from what I understand. I could be off a little bit, but either way, there are hundreds of thousands of people missing that need to fill in those gaps. And Baltimore should figure it out because the housing's affordable. We're super close to DC. And Baltimore is dope. Like the people who are here are awesome and we get stuff done. So come on, we need to figure it out together.
And quiet as it's kept, Quita, like those people are coming. The people to fill those vacant units that are sitting, they're coming. They're looking at Baltimore because they
Yeah.
can't afford the other cities, you know, that are along the East Coast. And Baltimore is very well connected, and it has a lot of advantages in terms of, you know, not just the people, the culture, the vibe here, but like access to a
Right.
variety of different areas. So like
We're
Baltimore is,
coastal. We have
yeah,
awesome seafood that creates jobs. We're a
yeah.
port city. Like, come on, Amber, run it down.
Yeah,
Tell us
so
why we're
there's a
dope.
lot. Yeah, like you said, we have a port city. We are a city that's full of colleges and universities. You know, some of like the thought leaders and things that are happening around the country. You have some of the best like magnet schools and like high schools that have a historic legacy that have produced people that have changed the country. And so not just the city. And so we have so much opportunity and so much, you know, wonderful potential here that oftentimes the main thing that bothers me is we don't start by looking within before we go
Right.
outside. because
Right.
there's so much already here. Like, I meet people that are from Baltimore City every day, and like, people will write off certain neighborhoods, will write off certain
Right.
housing projects, but people that come from the same neighborhoods and the same housing projects are running agencies, are like starting businesses that are
Right.
thriving and employing people in the city, and they should be highlighted. They should be on, murals. They should be on billboards. They should be leading some of these committees and commissions. They should be the ones that you're tapping on to say, how were you able to make it? Despite all the challenges that were stacked against you, you still were able to succeed. You still were able to make it, and you're still here making a contribution. So let's
Right.
highlight you and make sure that you can continue to succeed in what you're doing.
Nobody's asking because the city's mad that you're succeeding. Let's be
Right.
real. Like they're like, why are you succeeding? It's they almost mad at you, like asking you
How is
like
this happening?
well, I had an agency director that I was volunteering for, and I still volunteer for, asked me one time, he's like, you're doing too much. You're all over the place. Like mad at me. Like, how are you doing all this? Don't you have a job? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, man, God is good. That's all I had for him too, because I have no idea how I do all this stuff besides besides relying on relationships and people in our tribe. I was like, it's not you see me doing everything, but it's not just me. It's a whole
Right.
community of people that care about the city. And how am I making it? Like grace of God, man. Like where's your
Right.
faith, bro? Like, but they're
Right.
mad at you when you're succeeding at things, when you're doing things in the community. It's
When you
almost like a
defy the odds
stigma.
that would have broke them. You
Right.
know
It's
what
like
I mean? Like,
yeah.
we don't have a choice though. Like, it really, it kind of upsets me, one, when we ask children, what do you want to be when you grow up? As if they can only be one thing, right? Two, when people ask me, like, what do you do? And I'm like, oh, like, well, tell me a little bit about yourself and I'll tell you
Hmm.
what I can just draw from that, because I do whatever it takes, right? Like, whatever it takes to get the job done. And I'm sure that there's some synergy, some overlapping, some something, but go ahead and tell me what you do. And then I'll let you know which boxes you can put me in, because I do so much. Like, it's going to blow your mind. You know what
Right.
I mean? And people just don't understand that, chap. You have that same kind of energy. People, well, where did you get your skills from? Where did you learn to do this?
Because I
From the
had to
community.
figure it out. Right.
Right. Like,
But
we had to figure it out. We didn't have the luxury of being able to always call somebody up to make it
no,
happen,
yeah.
right?
And that's why you certified Baltimore, man. Because you make me want to cuss, man. You effing figure it out. Like that's a Baltimore thing. You surviving in Baltimore, like what you gonna do? I don't know. We gonna figure it out, and you make it work, and you work. We ain't got nothing. Well, we make something out of nothing. That's what we do,
Right.
you
It's
know.
about to be the best rice and
And
green
and that's why,
beans
like,
that we've
to
ever had in our life.
bro,
Okay.
I would right. And to Amber's point, like that's why people from Baltimore are so great. That's what makes Baltimore the greatest city in the nation is really the struggle. Like you survive Baltimore, you come up through Baltimore, you can't not be great because you don't have a choice.
Right. The grassroots here are so
And I
strong.
appreciate and I appreciate when people recognize that. Like
Yeah.
I try to impress on my sons, like not just my sons at the house, but all my sons. Like you guys know how great Baltimore is, and I'll tell them like greatest baseball player, oh Babe Ruth, Baltimore, right? Like shortest dude to be dunking in the NBA, what from Baltimore,
Right.
Muggsy, right? Like
Bugsy Bowles. Yeah.
right, like they're just like, and I could just the list goes on, like
Tupac
and
Shakur. Like, everybody know who Pac is. Like, let's
right,
not
but
make
but the
fun.
kids
They're
today, if
not
you
from
don't
here.
tell
They
them, they're
came
like
through
he's
here.
from Baltimore.
Right. If they're
What?
not from here, they came through here.
Yeah,
Baltimore put
right.
their hands
Like
on us.
Baltimore is so great, and people you've never heard of are great. Like
Right.
lose point. He wants to do at our Power Fest um, festival. We're going to do a big one. We're doing a small one August 20th with the Battle of the Bands marching band competition. But one of his visions was to do a Baltimore's Got Talent kind of thing. He said he's like he understands. He's like, dude, the janitor at like Cecil Kirk Rec might be the greatest singer that you've never heard of. I'll tell you one. School police officer. We call him Jersey, but Officer Webb is a school police, right? And he was bothering me one day at Cesar's restaurant over in Southeast at in Bayview, and he's like, I knew his partner, so she's like, hey chap, blah blah blah. This my partner Webb. He sings, and I'm like, oh yeah, cool. But I'm hungry. I'm hangry, right? I'm trying to get my sandwich. I'm like, hey, cool, bro, nice to meet you. Like, let me get my food and get out of here. Wasn't being rude. I was just like in that zone. And this dude, like, I wasn't. I guess I was kind of blowing him off, but I didn't mean to be rude. So this dude just starts singing in the middle of Caesars, and I'm like, "Yo, you little chunky John Legend, where the hell did you come from?" And this dude blew my mind. His voice was so
You
heavenly.
said you're gonna act like you don't have
Yes,
time for
no,
me.
he
You
took
got
me to
time
a
for me today.
sanctuary, bro. He was, and I was just like, wow. But Baltimore's got so much greatness. Even the people that are just okay at stuff, we are so much better at our stuff than people in
Yes.
other regions. Like I'll tell you, for instance, people don't know this unless you're part of the culture, the gaming culture, right? People travel from Japan to Baltimore and DC to fight in Street Fighter competitions. Why?
Hmm.
Because the DMV's got the baddest video game fighting community in the world. But who knows that if you're not part of it? And
Right.
even if you're a scrub when you go to competitions in Baltimore, go anywhere else and you dominate because you've been getting your butt handed to you by the best of the best in Baltimore. Like I look, you got me started, Amber. Like you right though. Baltimore has a greatness. There's such greatness here, man. I love it.
It is, and I love that we can all continue to pour into the community and bring folks together. I can't wait to figure out how Amber and I are going to get this real estate situation off the ground. We've been talking about women in real estate for months now, and life keeps happening, but we're going to figure it out because it is destined to come. We need more homeowners. We need more help to advocate for tiny homes and smaller
Mhm.
dwellings, minimalist living. Go ahead, Amber, chime in, because we have been talking about this forever, right?
Yes. Yeah, so beware because we're coming. But yes, so there's just, it's funny because there's a lot of like talk about like, the single black woman. And, some people think that it's a good thing that we're able to, figure out how to thrive and achieve things despite the things stacked against us. Some people think it's like a detriment to our community, but whatever you think, when you look at the stats of who's buying homes in Baltimore City, of, who's like investing in Baltimore City, black women, we're out here and we need to be working together, leaning on each other, supporting each other, sharing resources with each other, because this is a very bro-centric kind of field, to be honest.
Yes, yes,
And so we have to work together, one, to just like change the culture and the identity of what it looks like to be a developer. It's not based on what zip code you grew up in. It's not based on what ethnicity you are. It's not based on your gender. It's not based on any of those things. But, the fact that you just are dedicated to the work and you have the knowledge and you're doing it, that should be the identity of development of real estate in Baltimore City, because that's the reality of what's happening, and oftentimes isn't getting highlighted. So, creating spaces where people can feel comfortable, like going to a networking event, for example, and everyone isn't wearing the same Dockers and shirt, and the same, like, all talking about the same vacation spots and trails and whatnot. Like, I might not be able to relate with you on that. But I went to see that, Erica Badu and Jill Scott concert. Let's talk about that,
yes,
whatever, but like, those are the little things that people don't realize contribute
right,
to folks feeling like it's not for them. Like, this
right,
isn't my community. Like, this isn't my area. And so, just being able to have spaces where we can talk about all different types of things and we can meet
right.
all different types of people and have them highlighted and centered. That's really something that, I think everyone on this live is passionate about. And so,
Absolutely.
definitely looking forward to contributing to that culture.
I love that. I love that. And you're speaking our tribal language, like sharing space, letting people know that, okay, this is one thing that I love to say. Like, not only is this a shared space and is this a safe space, but this is like a brave space. This is a space of growth and failing fast and failing forward and knowing that failure is a part of the process. Like, this is where that can happen. Like, make your mistakes with us so that when you go out in the world, like, you are doing what needs to be done the quickest way that it can be done. But let's build community. Let's work with one another. Let's teach each other's skills and share space so that we can share knowledge and gain from one another and go out here and conquer Baltimore City, because I can't do it alone. Chap can't do it alone. Amber can't do it alone. But locked arms, with the rest of our network, like, who gonna stop us? Who gonna check me, boo? Nobody. Nobody at all, right? Like, I love that you all come out to walk with the doc every week, and I want to continue to invite folks out. Chap, I see you off mute. What you got to say? Nothing.
You know what? I was sitting just marinating on when she was talking earlier. When you guys were talking earlier about the context of the real estate culture, how like I'll be out helping Quita with her event, right? And people come up to me like, "Hey, what's going on? This and that." And I'm like, "I don't know." Like, go talk to the boss, talk to the chief, because that's not me. But they make the assumption. So
And
it
that's
always
why
makes me
I love
smile,
my
man.
tribe.
Right?
That's
Because
why
I
I love
always
my tribe, because y'all always hold me down. I am the last person that they look for on the work site. And it's
they
cool. I'm
they
okay
gonna
with it.
learn.
Like, I don't have to puff out my chest and make sure that everybody knows that I'm in charge. Because guess what? When they go to anyone on the team, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, go talk to the little black woman right there that you thought had nothing to do with anything, that was blending in with the kids. Yeah, she's the
Right.
one that's
So
in charge,
my brain
right?
got stuck there when she said that. I was thinking about the one thing we did, and yeah, I was like, yeah, that happens, and it just makes me smile because I know they gonna get it.
It
If you don't
happens
know,
each
you finna find
time.
out. Yep.
And it's okay. It's okay. Like, I'm so used to it and I'm so comfortable and all that has happened thus far that it's just a part of the game.
Yeah.
And one day, someday,
We just re-educate people. Like, it's not.
exactly. One day, someday, they're going to learn that in Baltimore, it's a little bit different. And
Mm-hmm.
it's
Well, I
not
think.
like a whitewashed world, it's a little bit of mocha.
Mm-hmm. And look, before I forget, because we coming up on Robert's time. So earlier today, I got the privilege to serve a day camp called Horizon Day Camp. They're over at Boys Latin over in Roland Park, right? You know about them? So I didn't know about them. I learned about them today, but I got a call from the director, I guess, Mark, and he needed help setting up a fence. And then he's like, "Oh, by the way, while you're here, can you help me set up this little basketball arcade game?" I'm like, "I could do that." And he's like, "Hey, you good with electronics? We need help setting up the PA system." And so like Quita said, like, like we're good at a little bit of everything because we've taught ourselves how to learn stuff, right? So I'm fixing all little stuff up and everything. And so he wanted to make sure that I shared a plug for Horizon Day Camp in Baltimore, Maryland. They have 5 weeks left of camp. There is no deadline for registration. So they serve specifically children with cancer and their siblings are able to have camp experience and get a break from all the doctors and all the cancer stuff and just be kids and have camp experience. So you can reach out to me or Quita. You can Google Horizon Day Camp Baltimore. There's no deadline, and anyone who knows any children who have cancer and their siblings, they can go to attend this camp. So I just wanted to share that plug before I ran out of time. Make sure I got that in.
Thank you for that, Chapel. Thank you
Yeah.
for that. Okay, so Amber, let's give you the last minute or two. What is it that do you want to leave the folks with anything? Do you have any last remarks, ways that people can donate to your new entity? Like, what can people do to support you as an individual?
Wow, so thank you for that. The main ways to support, so you can visit our website, three walls dev .com, and the three is spelled out in words, THREEWALLS. And so yeah,
What is it?
just
Three
go to
walls.
our
What?
website, threewallsdev or dv.com, and you can go to our website. You can see our pitch competition presentation. You can see what we do. Reach out to us if you would like to partner with us on any of the things listed in our site. I would say, if you see us coming up in a public hearing or something, throw us a positive word, support us. I would say, just if you have a community that's interested in exploring ways to partner with smaller developers, if you are a developer that might have site control of some properties that you are looking to offload because you don't have capacity to take all of them on, reach out to smaller developers like Three Walls or other small developers. I would say, just being supportive when you see us out here, sending us words of encouragement. When you see us on the street, just positive word. I see you, sis. Keep going, keep doing it. All those things definitely help us because you have no idea what any of us, and I know the two of y'all can relate to this, are going through behind the scenes to try to make it happen. So
Absolutely.
encouraging words always go a long
And
way.
I'll share real quick. I noticed that trend that people, like how you could donate a car to organizations. You can donate real estate. Let me make that
Yes,
clear. You can donate real estate to an organization, to this organization, threewallsdev.com.
yes. And so we're not a nonprofit,
Okay.
but if you know a nonprofit that is working to acquire properties in a neighborhood, just look up Baltimore CDCs or, Baltimore Homes, folks of that nature, and figure out how to get in contact with them, donate properties to them, because there are, I guarantee you, community-based groups that are eager to get their hands on those properties that will then partner with folks like Three Walls Development to make sure we're able to get them built up. So please definitely look into property donation in Baltimore City.
Absolutely. That was a great nugget to end on, Amber. That was so dope. You guys can see Amber's website and the pitch competition on their website, which is so dope. We're going to have Amber back so that we can talk about whatever real estate meeting we actually get to put together. We're going to do a real estate brunch or something or another, make this thing pop, okay? So
Yes.
yeah, every Sunday, Lake Montebello, 9 a.m. We are here every Monday at 7 o'clock. Shared space, Quita in chat. Chapo, did you want to add anything before we wrap up?
That's it. Y'all got it. I love y'all.
Love you
Thank you.
more. See you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. And thanks again, Amber. This was so dope.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you all for inviting me. I really enjoyed it.
Of
Appreciate the
course.
invitation. All right.
Have a great evening, y'all.
Take care, everybody.